When somebody breaks the law and pays their debt to society, our hope is always for permanent rehabilitation. Nobody wants to see anybody degenerate into a lifetime of crime. But there are some criminals, the most dangerous, violent offenders, whose actions mean that we cannot risk permitting them back on our streets. Yet, as the law stands, sometimes we do. Specifically, criminals who prey on society's most vulnerable, plotting kidnapping or sexual assault that ends in murder. Criminals with such contempt for law and order that they kill correctional or police officers charged with our protection. Criminals who so despise our values or way of life that they carry out deadly attacks of terrorism and high treason. Criminals whose crimes are so horrific that they shock the conscience of the entire community. Ladies and gentlemen, the suffering of the victims of such horrific crimes and the suffering of those who love them is bad enough. But what if, when the whole truth is known, they should find out that the crime could have been prevented in the first place? That this crime should have been prevented, but wasn't? That the perpetrator was someone who could have been, should have been, securely behind bars? When that is discovered, at that moment, their anguish, compounded by disbelief, becomes outrage, not just to them, but to the entire community, to the entire country. And then we are all left to wonder what justice really means. We feel betrayed. And Canadians ask rightly why the most dangerous killers once imprisoned should ever be free again, only to threaten our children, our families, our friends, our neighbors, our fellow citizens. It is very hard to argue with that, and our government has no intention of arguing with that. This sort of thing must end in this country. Ladies and gentlemen, the fact is there are certain criminals who should never, ever be allowed to walk the streets where you and your neighbors live and work, or the streets where our children play. And there are certain crimes so repulsive that only a lifelong punishment adequately reflects their truly horrific nature. I'm therefore proud to announce that next week our government will introduce legislation to ensure that for the most heinous offenders and the most horrific crimes, a life sentence in Canada will henceforth mean exactly that, a sentence for life.